The 355, The Tender Bar, and Drive My Car, all tonight on Real to Real Talk. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again to talk movies. And, of course, with me, as always, the other Real to Real Talker, Paul Britton. Paul, welcome to this episode.
Thank you, Sergio. I am honored and excited to be here for this episode.
We're going to call it this episode.
The episode.
Yes. Big thank you to all of you who are joining us across our platforms, whether it be here on Facebook Live or on YouTube. We are glad that you're here. And as we begin tonight's show, we are going to just fill it full of movie reviews. We're going to be talking about a little action flick called The 355, as well as a very different type of film called The Tender Bar, available on Prime. And we will have a special guest visit for our third movie review tonight as we take a look at a film that recently won the Golden Globe for foreign language film, and that is Japan's Drive My Car. So we'll be welcoming our friend Kristen Smith to the show for that review, and I'm excited to have a guest once again join us, Paul.
Yeah, I'm totally stoked. I totally dug getting the chance to speak to Kristen when we did our big 100th episode.
Yeah.
I was All the President's Men was her all-time favorite movie. Was just like, yes, awesome. Let's talk movies more. So I'm stoked.
Absolutely excited to have her visit the show yet again, and looking forward to having a conversation about a very, very interesting film. But before we get to that, we were served up. What's that?
We have to do the other ones.
We have to do the other ones, yeah.
Before we do the interesting film,
yes.
Here are 2 other movies that came
Here are the appetizers that are going to get us to where we're headed. Got to do a quick shout out to our friend Blair, who is faithfully once again with us this week. So thank you for joining us, Blair. So talk about a tale of 3 films. We are really going to be all over the map, so to speak, as we get to this week's episode of Real to Real Talk. We're going to talk about a little ditty called The 355. I'll start by saying, as I always do, Paul, I love a good action film.
Sure.
Yeah, and so I knew what I was headed into when it came to this film. The cast included some folks that I'm very fond of: Jessica Chastain, Sebastian Stan. Quite a list. This was a movie that you knew going in what to expect.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm really looking for when it comes to a movie of this type are the needed action movie tropes checked off. Okay, meaning my bar is not too high.
Okay.
So
I will say this definitely hits trope after trope.
No, man, does it? And it hits it hard.
Yeah.
Paul, your thoughts when you knew we were going to watch this movie and talk about it? What were you expecting, or what were your thoughts as you entered into it?
Honestly, I was excited about it. I really dug the trailers.
Mm-hmm.
I was on board. I was, as soon as I saw the trailers, I was like, oh, we're going to see this one. We're going to be doing this one. But of course, in the back of your head, when there's a movie tucked away the first week of January, you also have to think, why did the studio put it in the first week of January?
Sure.
And it's usually because for as much talent is involved in the movie, something doesn't quite work.
Right.
And, I think the 355 qualifies as an excellent entrant into the first week of January in ignominious release history. So,
yeah. It was a good enough way to start off the year. We, last week talked about the films we're looking forward to this year, and this was the first one we spoke of. The cast is just full of some really amazing folks, along with Jessica Chastain, Sebastian Stan. Penelope Cruz plays a very fun character. Diane Kruger is in this film, who I first learned about way back in the film Troy, the Brad Pitt vehicle, and Lupita Nyong'o is also a part of this cast that really there were some interesting things in addition to the action tropes that I found about this film, and that was the interplay between these characters, each very two very similar, otherwise very distinct characters. And I would be it would be bad of me to forget to mention Fan Bingbing, who played Lin Mi Sheng in the film as well. I don't think we got enough screen time with her, frankly.
Not nearly.
And I'll say this before I even get to any sort of thoughts on the movie itself. I'm hoping for a sequel because they've set one up, and I'm there.
They certainly set one up.
Yeah.
I love going to theaters. I would not mind this being just like something that Amazon Prime releases once.
Sure.
Or something.
Yeah.
I don't really need to be dragged to a theater for another one of these, but
yeah,
you give me something, a little easier to get to. I'm in. Sure.
Right. Yeah. Again, we don't go to this movie for any sort of big cinematic impact, because let's face it, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a tomato meter score of 26%. Although the audience score is 82.
Yeah.
So fans, for those of us who are there to chomp on popcorn and enjoy some action, we enjoyed this film.
Yeah.
So Paul, the ups and downs of this film, now that you've seen it.
The downs is like, it's one thing to just be, to make sure you tick all the check boxes of every of action movie tropes.
Yeah.
It's another thing that just about everything that happens in your movie is blatantly stolen from another.
Okay.
Like when you're literally lifting stuff from Mission Impossible, and I am introduced to a character, and I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen with this guy. And it's true. It's kind of like, like literally like 1/3 of this entire movie is just a straight lift from Mission Impossible.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The other thing that was missing was them saying knock list. That was it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun film, but at the same time, the problem with the movie for me is exactly the same as what I was looking forward to. And that is that you can literally signpost the action movie trope almost before it happens. You know, in an action film, if you don't see the person get shot or die, they ain't dead. They're going to come back. That if you have a character set up in the first few minutes of this movie as, perhaps one of the good guys, and then they disappear for a bit, they're probably not one of the good guys. And so there are just some things that were so obvious here. But at the same time, if you don't come to expect that, then maybe you just haven't been paying attention as the years have gone on.
Yeah.
So.
I will say,
mm-hmm.
I appreciated that everybody was there and was trying and was putting forth effort. This would have definitely been an easy movie to just been kind of to yawn your way through if you were the actors. But I don't think anybody did that, and I especially thought Lupita was fantastic. I thought she did a great job, and I hope we get to see her in more action flicks. Honestly,
oh sure,
I know we will, but
right. I think some of what I liked about this film was it did take that sort of dreaded step of things occurring that just the hero moment didn't happen when you thought it might. And so there were some really harsh moments throughout the story of the film, but I think I can sum up sort of the downside of this movie in one particular scene when it takes you almost 3/4 of the film to finally have any sort of throwback to the title. You've kind of lost your way.
Well, and I was actually going to mention that, and it wasn't 3/4. It was literally 99%. The title throwback didn't happen until literally like the second to last scene, and the last scene was just like a throwaway like coda scene,
right?
And it was just like there's it's too
so much more could have been.
It's too important. It's too interesting. And it's too easy to weave throughout the movie.
Right.
It's almost lazy to not do it, and
and you hung your trailer on it That was the other thing,
Yeah.
A large portion of the trailer for this film, at least the one that was shown most often,
It's true. Like
and
right up front. It's
and it's what got me intrigued.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so did it do its job as a, I don't want to use the word silly because that's diminishing it, as an action movie that was there to entertain? Sure, absolutely.
Yes.
Could we pick it apart if we wanted to?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But let's enjoy it for what it was. So here on Real to Real Talk, we use a 5-taco rating system. And movie can get as many as 5 tacos with guac. You can throw additional guac if you want to show it some extra love. So, Paul, I'll go to you first for the 355. What is your taco rating?
All right, in spite of my complaints, I'm giving it 5 tacos. No, I'm kidding. This is a tough one. I don't know where to go. I'm just gonna go with 2 tacos plus guac.
Okay.
It's either 2 tacos plus guac or 3 tacos. Honestly, just because of how much they lifted from Mission Impossible, I'm giving it 2 tacos plus guac.
Gotcha.
It's good enough. Good enough.
Well, I think you're not going to be surprised because we do tend to differ. But I'm not going to go much higher than that. I am going to give the 355 3 tacos, mainly because lots of explosions, lots of shoot 'em up, bang bang.
Yeah.
That's what I love. It was funny when it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
It had the moments, but at the end of the day, I can't give it more than that because
it had 2 fantastic set pieces, like 2 absolutely fantastic set pieces that are well worth the watch if that's your thing.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So we have come to the conclusion of our look at the 355. It is one of those films that if I'm walking through a room and it's on, I'll probably sit down and watch it. So, it's just that much fun. Especially we talked last week off air how I'm going through the Mission Impossible films. I was already primed, when it came to seeing this film. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, we move now to a film that I want to ask you, Paul.
Sure.
Let's start with you. Talk a little bit about what was it about this film that you said, okay, it's one to talk about if we choose to. What was your interest in this film to begin with?
Well, it's gotten a little bit of buzz for award season. It's like Fringe. It's like, here's a movie. It's George Clooney directed it. Anytime George Clooney's involved with something, you got to be a little interested. And Ben Affleck's, and it's George Clooney directing Ben Affleck. And anytime Ben Affleck's in something, you got to be a little interested. And so I was a little interested. I was like, yeah, you know what? This is a perfect example of what I just said about the 355 sequels, because the one thing I love about the streamers, as much as I mourn the impending doom of the theater experience, is that it does make it way more convenient to just be able to be like, okay, it's 5:00 on a Thursday. I'm ready to go to watch this movie now.
Right.
And I don't need to leave my house. So I don't have to wait until 7 or 6:50, or I didn't just miss it because now I'm, it's super convenient. And so, because of the minimal effort that was required of me, I was like, yeah, okay, let's check it out.
Yeah. The movie is The Tender Bar, and it is available on Prime. And I, when you shot me the message and said, hey, I've watched this and we're going to talk about it, just to inform me. And I was like, you know what? I hadn't thought about seeing that. I knew that we had spoken of it very briefly.
Yeah.
And so I went into it and I thought, you know what? Okay, I've got time. Let's make the most of it. I was quite surprised.
Yeah.
This movie is one that it is so different from the 355. It's that coming of age story,
right?
That is really about it's a memoir based film.
Mm-hmm.
And I will admit my ignorance in terms of who the individual is, Maringer, that this book was written on and this movie is based on.
No, I'll admit it with you. No idea.
Okay, all right.
Didn't know who he was. At the end of the movie, I'm on Google or I'm on Wikipedia. Like, okay, what's up with this guy? Yep.
Yeah. So I can't speak in depth about who this individual was. Shame on me for not doing the research. But I will say that for being a film directed by George Clooney, starring Ben Affleck, there was just enough Ben Affleck for him not to get annoying. The Ty Sheridan is the main character in the film.
Yeah.
The young gentleman who played him as a young boy was phenomenal. This was the story of the life of uh, a writer, basically, from the onset of his life as it starts to unravel, so to speak, with his mom and the absence of his father and so forth and so on. And you have that amount of time within this film that's the kid growing up and the life lessons he learns from his sort of rough and tumble uncle, played pretty smoothly by Ben Affleck, I gotta say.
Yeah.
I was just so surprised by how much I enjoyed this film.
Okay.
It was very safe.
Yeah, it's
very charming.
Yes.
There's not a lot of heavy drama here.
Yes.
I'm going to go to you, I promise, but I want to sort of sum up the review that I read that I really feel like summed up the whole experience. Was it was a movie about the bar experience without the alcoholism. And so it was like, that's true. So
no. There was definitely alcoholism, and
yes,
we have
but the bar scenes are pretty glorified in terms of like the experience, right?
It's tough this is a tough movie to talk about without first mentioning George Clooney as a director. George Clooney as a director, like you mentioned, like this is a very safe movie, and that's what George Clooney's directorial movies tend to be. Like we did The Midnight Sky in 2020 when it came out, which I thought was really good and interesting and different. But like there's the Ides of March and there's Leatherheads and there's Good Night and Good Luck. I think his best movie was his first one, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. I feel like that one kind of took chances and did some different things, whereas most of his movies as a director are typically just like, we're going straight down the line. We're not going to upset anybody. We're not going to get too crazy here, and you're probably not going to love it. You might not remember it, but you will at least not have a bad time. You will potentially have a good time, and I think this falls in right with that. Right off the bat, though, I do have to mention. Yeah, I'm sorry. Right off the bat, there is a voiceover. There is a narrator, and guys, if you're gonna make a movie and you're thinking, should I put a narrator in? If at any point during the narration you think to yourself, oh gee whiz, thank Captain Obvious, you don't just take all of the narration out. It all needs to go. Like not just that little bit of narration, but because I promise you there are other parts of the narration that are just going to be like, you don't need to say that. I am not 5. I am understanding.
We can catch on.
Yeah.
In fact, I could be wrong, but I know that every time I heard narration, I thought to myself, that's not even the voice of the actor, like of Ty Sheridan.
Again.
And so it was so disruptive.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm not even gonna lie, it's a little weird that they have 3 different people playing the same character when the third one is a narrator who could be Ty Sheridan, quite frankly. Yeah. And if you had gotten the kid to do the narration, I might have enjoyed it a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't work at all. Everything else about the movie is perfectly passable and okay.
It definitely falls in that okay realm for me. It was a little too much of the back to the narration real quickly. It was a little too much of the Wonder Years vibe, but not as funny as Wonder Years. And so at the end of the day, this film tells a story that it's meant to tell. It's basically the life of this writer growing up, the difficulties he has, with an absent father, and I even felt like when I say the movie felt safe was even when you get to moments where you would think that there was some sort of knockdown drag out moment with his father, right?
He pulls.
It doesn't deliver now, and maybe that's the life of the individual, and got to respect that.
Yeah, sure.
But I will say that there were some threads throughout the film that kept me compelled.
Yeah.
Very obvious signposting of what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
But there were some clever edits done, in some of the discussions between the uncle played by Ben Affleck and the young man played by Ty Sheridan. It was just really good storytelling that was being done on film that I enjoyed about this film. So I definitely recommend it, folks.
And anytime Ben Affleck can give away an old shitty car at the end of a movie,
talk about stealing a moment.
Yeah.
I'm in. Oh man. I was like, is this years later the guys were all these the guys from Good Will Hunting? So, but yeah, so yeah, it was fun. I definitely hope people will watch it because I don't think Prime is doing a very good job of making it seem appealing from a visual standpoint.
Yeah.
And I told Jen, I'm like, just because she's got a Ben Affleck issue, she's like, not a fan, and I'm like, no, you have to give this movie a chance. Like, I think you'll enjoy it. It has enough humor that it'll stay with it.
I find that interesting. Ben Affleck is absolutely charming. So now he's not always good, but he's always charming.
Oh yeah, I've not been a fan of his work. I mean, I enjoy what he's done, and he's certainly shown improvement over the years.
I mean, Gone Girl he's amazing in that. So
absolutely. But yeah, so let's get right down to it. We will talk about our ratings for The Tender Bar. I don't know if you mind, Paul, but I'll start this time. For me, The Tender Bar was one of those movies that really delivers what it intends to, and I respect that. And so I'm going to give it 3 tacos plus guac. The acting was what it needed to be. There was nothing overdone here. The directing was simple. It's told a good story. I think George Clooney has shown a lot of range in terms of the kinds of films he directs, and this was just his sort of family-friendly entry into his filmography as a director. And so, 3 tacos plus guac for me on The Tender Bar.
I'm going 3 tacos. I'm removing the guac for the narration. And not even kidding. Like
that's very costly narration. Yeah,
the narration was really bad.
Yeah, and very disruptive. So.
Genuinely bad narration. So
got it.
You lose a little bit of shine for me with that.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Well, I gotta say, make sure you check it out. You can find The Tender Bar on Prime, and do so. It'll be a good break from whatever other stuff you're watching.
Whatever else you got going on.
Exactly. All right. Well, before we continue, we're going to take a moment to say thank you to all of you who are joining us this evening. We appreciate when you join us live, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube. We want to invite you on YouTube to go ahead and make sure you click that subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so you know when our episodes post. In case you can't make it for the live show, you'll always get a prompt when the show posts to our feed. Also, make sure you stop by on Facebook. Just look up the words Real to Real Talk, and you can check out the posts that we have going on there. You can watch the show on Facebook as well on that page. And also make sure you go over to our Instagram. You can find us at Real to Real Talk. Check out all of our show posters from past episodes so you can do some catching up and hear what we think about a lot of the movies and films out there. So thank you so much for all of your support as we enjoy, whoops, that's not a spoiler alert, as we enjoy knowing that we are entertaining you week to week. So right now, though, we're going to welcome a wonderful friend of the show. Kristen Smith has joined us on past occasions and was most recently on our 100th episode. And we're just tickled pink to have her back. So, Kristen, welcome back to Real Talk. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, indeed. Now,
you were the star of the 100th episode. I just want you to know that, Kristen.
I'm sorry?
You were the all-star of the 100th episode, so.
Thank you.
I
tried to be awesome.
And you do so well. So, Kristen, I would like it if you would take a moment to sort of kind of point us in the direction we're headed, because you were the one that brought the film we're about to talk about to us. You reached out to me, and I'm just curious to get a little bit of insight before we actually talk about the film. Sort of what drove you to this movie, and tell us a little bit about how we got to this point.
Yes. So this movie, I sought it out because it was starting to get it's Oscar season.
Yes.
And so I follow Oscar season every single year, and there are certain critics groups that are very influential, such as Los Angeles film critics, New York film critics. Like, those are like two of the major ones where if a movie wins it, then people will start noticing. And so like a lot of people who vote for Oscars look at these. And Drive My Car won both, including another third one that's incredibly influential. And so people are starting to talk about it for adapted screenplay, for director. And I was just like, I got to watch this crazy foreign film if people are saying that it can actually be in Best Picture.
Yeah.
And so, like, thankfully, being in Chicago, we actually had a theater that was playing it. And I was just very moved. And of course, like, it being a movie that like I feel a lot of feelings for, I'm just like, I gotta talk about this movie. This movie is so good.
Yeah. I want to build on what Kristen, just to give some context. Since 1990, there have been 6 films to win the Best Picture from New York, Los Angeles, and National Societies of Film Critics. Those other 5 movies, Drive My Car did it. The other 5 movies, Goodfellas, Schindler's List, LA Confidential, The Hurt Locker, The Social Network. So, I mean, you might have heard of a couple of these movies. Perhaps you've seen them. They are only indelibly etched into the social fabric of our, movie psyche. But, little films.
Yeah. I've seen them all.
So this is the the heft of Drive My Car right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The movie Drive My Car is what we're talking about. And so, Kristen, before we even start, thank you so much for reaching out to us, because this is the kind of thing that we hope to have a lot more of in 2022, is folks who say, you know what, I saw this movie and it's got all this buzz and we got to talk about it. That's one of the things I think you and I have always connected on, is that notion of like, I just got to talk about this thing. And so,
and it's kind of hard to like recommend a 3-hour Japanese drama.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the
have samurais in it.
Right. Yeah. And that's
several Kurosawa movies that are plus, but
oh, absolutely. This is one of the things that I first want to mention about this film, is that it is 3 hours, but it is a very powerful 3 hours that I hope people have the patience to and the curiosity to want to see this film, because I think it's a very important film in an age where everything moves so fast. This movie challenges us to allow it to patiently unfold.
Yeah.
And so
and it's well paced.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
That was one of the things I think it shocked me every single time I watched it. I'm just like, this is paced so well for a movie that is 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of talking and almost no score.
Right.
I was like,
exactly.
This passes by.
Yeah.
And not just 3 hours, but 3 hours, which includes a 45-minute prologue. Like you could literally
the cold open
off the first 45 minutes, and people would know, okay, I know it, but it loses so much. It is a prologue. The first 45 minutes of the movie absolutely a prologue.
It's like the opening of the Deer Hunter. Like,
Right.
you don't need an hour-long wedding scene, but the emotional payoff of having that context
Right.
has so much weight
Yeah.
as it keeps going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I loved, is just the ability to sit down for those 3 hours and just let this thing happen, this movie, and literally the shock moment of the credits starting, literally like screeched me to a halt. I was like, oh yeah, there was never a title card, and so yeah, it was very very interesting choice, but it makes total sense in the overall context of the film, that you needed so much information. Drive My Car tells us the story of a man who is from the outset seemingly living the life that he wants, and we find out through the death of a character and through the revelations that come from that around that moment. We then see this man go on a journey of dealing with, I think for me, and I hope you guys will correct me or add to it, this movie, deals with the themes of loss, regret, things that you don't hang a movie on unless you have something important to say and have the willingness to say it in whatever voice you choose to, and in a way that challenges the viewer. This is a brilliant film. And I just want to start, Kristen, if you'll get us started. What are some of the things that you felt, were the talking points of this film? Help us by leading us through this conversation.
The number one thing that I love is how it's not just one story. There's like 5 different stories that are happening that are like weaving into each other, that are, because I'm trying to think of the ways to describe it without necessarily going too deep into it, because I do want people to find this movie.
Yes.
But for example, the main character, he's an actor, and so he's putting on a play production. And this play production has different actors who are using their own native language. So people are trying to act this play without necessarily understanding the words of the other people, other than just memorizing the text. And so I have just loved how all of these different stories sort of help give different emotional context for all the things that people are saying and also just not saying. And that's what, this idea of communication, that you're having these characters who are speaking to each other, but they're not really connecting.
Right.
And these people who aren't necessarily understanding the words, but they are able to like find that connection, that human connection, that, these characters who understand each other are not getting through to each other.
Yeah, no, very interesting aspect of the movie itself. Paul, anything you have to add or to that, or sort of?
Yeah, so the play within the play, that she's talking about. It's interesting because there are 2 different metaphors for life going on within this movie. There is the driving of a car is a metaphor for life, and then there is the play within the play, where the play is the metaphor for life, and you get 2 different senses that they are intertwined. They connect because the driving of the car is his realness, not the false fronts that he puts up, not any sort of persona that he's putting out there. That's who he is. Like, it's this is his real time. He wants to spend as much time as he can in that car, driving the car. He wants to stay as far away from the theater as he can, that while still being a reasonable distance away. It's important to him to have this real persona of himself. As equally important to him, obviously, and it's his livelihood to put in the front, and he can't survive without having these honestly these Kristen was saying, these almost meaningless exchanges, because that's what it boils down to, is that if you can't communicate, if you're talking past each other, although in such a way where it all fits together, bravo, it all fits together, but it's still meaningless, and it still lacks any sort of reality, in spite of the fact that it is also impactful. Like, just because it's not real doesn't mean it's not happening, and it's fantastic. It's really the key here for this movie is the script, and it really does deserve to win for screenplay. If it doesn't win for anything else, it will almost definitely win for foreign language film for sure at the Oscars. But it really should win for screenplay, because that's where that's the gem in this movie. I would say that the direction is fine, and I honestly think that you could quibble about the 3-hour runtime. Do you really need the prologue to be 45 minutes? Probably not. Like, you could probably gotten away with like 20 minutes on the prologue, and it still would have been impactful. But like, if people want to say, but the script is perfect. Like, there's nothing in that script where I would say, yeah, cut that out. Like, it's just because of the way everything intertwines. I am not saying I'm quibbling about the 3-hour runtime, by the way. I'm just saying, if people wanted to quibble about it, I'd be like, okay, we can have that conversation, but you can't have the conversation. That the script is just perfect. This is an example of a perfect script.
And sadly, that's like the biggest hurdle for people. It's just the runtime. Like, every person I've talked to who's actually seen it is just like, this movie's brilliant. But you have to like convince them, like, I know it's 3 hours long, but like, again, like, you can look at Rotten Tomatoes and audience scores. Like, people like it a lot if you can just make the time for it.
It's a special movie. It's a special movie.
It is. It's funny because, speaking of runtime, if there were pieces of it that I thought to myself, okay, could this be a shorter film? The only thing I can think that could be shortened are some of the long segments of the car going down the road. You can't take away any sort of the interplay or any sort of the exchanges that happen of dialogue or anything of the sort. I mean, and that's the thing that I think is so effective with this film, is the screenplay, yes, but the way in which it's acted and the way in which these discussions are held so deliberately, which, if you think about how the main character as a director of this play, Uncle Vanya, he makes his cast be very deliberate about how they present the dialogue within the play, and that's how he lives his life out. And he's very methodical. He's very measured in what he shares with this young woman who is the driver, and that regardless of how we see the arc of their relationship form over the course of those 3 hours, probably 2.5 of the film itself, it is so deliberately done that the mistake, if somewhere down the road, like we see often with foreign films of this type, that remake that wants to tell the same story, right? You can't rush this, and I will be mortified if someone even tries to. This film is perfect as it is,
right, because
of the deliberate pacing, because of what it challenges you to trust it as it unfolds.
And one of the really fascinating things about the play within the play is that they can even communicate that. Like, it's like, look, this is the speed. You have to deliver it at like he doesn't care about anything other than, this is the speed at which you deliver this line, and this is how long, because because nobody can understand each other. You have to know, I've got 5 beats until I say this next word, and then I have 7 beats, and then I'm going to be off for 3 beats, and then I'm back on for 2. It's just that's how he's directing this play, and that's how he lives his life, and that's how the movie is presented, and it's just, that's why it's so brilliant. I mean, it's like an interesting, like, and I don't think this is too much of a stress, but an interesting connection would be like Baby Driver, where the beats of the action sequences are all to the soundtrack. It's the same thing here. The beats of the movie are strictly to the script, and that's why it's just like it's brilliant. The way it's put together is just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, Kristen, I think we all agree that this is going to be a lock more than likely for foreign language film at the Oscars. Does this film, in your opinion, make that cut of however many it's going to be this year to vie for Best Picture? And in your opinion, do you feel like it's accessible enough, in the way Parasite was a few years ago?
It's in a weird bubble right now because it's not going to. I've already resigned. It's not going to win adapted screenplay because of The Power of the Dog, which is at this point. I love Jane Campion.
Yeah.
Power of the Dog was not in my type. Was like not in my top 10.
Okay.
But like I respect that. I respect that screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are expecting it in. The director's branch I don't know if y'all have like seen the director's branch recently, but they're insane and they'll throw in curveballs all the time. Like last year with Thomas Vinterberg, and then Pavel Pawlikowski in 2019. That there's a lot of people who are like this. We can honestly see the foreign directors in the director branch like giving him a director nomination, which is great, and I'm predicting it too. But with every single pundit I've ever seen, some of them are starting to warm up to it, but the runtime is everyone's reason why, they're not going to watch this because of the 3-hour runtime. Like it'll get international feature. It's the presumed front runner, and there are a couple people who will expect other nominations. Some are even predicting picture, like a picture nomination, but like unfortunately it's not going to have the same pull that Parasite did because Parasite is loud. It is in your face. It is twisty, and this is kind of twisty, but at the same time much more deliberate and methodically paced.
Yeah. And on that list of 6 movies that have been had that trifecta from the critics, only 2 of them have won Best Picture. So it just because the critics love it doesn't mean that it's gonna those movies fare well with the audiences, let's say, and the academies are audiences, they are not critics. So especially when you're talking about Best Picture where everybody votes and everybody's involved. And I agree with Kristen. I think if it gets nominated for Best Picture, that's amazing. Like that would be
that's a reward. Like that's awesome if it does.
Yeah, because that will give it a lot of exposure, and that's what this movie is totally lacking right now is exposure.
Right.
And I think that from that standpoint, Parasite just getting nominated was probably why it won, because like Kristen said, it's just that movie is just like it grapples onto you and bludgeons you, whereas Drive My Car does not. It kind of holds your hand and strokes you and says, "Come, drive my car."
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Thankfully, as we comment on its accessibility, it's thanks to you, Kristen, that I was able to see it. Paul, I think maybe you were in the same boat.
Yep.
And I just really appreciate you wanting to come on and have this conversation. So, Kristen, as you know, here on the show, we do taco ratings for the movies that we review. A movie can get as many as 5 tacos. But if you want to throw some extra guac on there onto your rating, please feel free to do so. So, Kristen, as our guest, we'd love for you to go first. What would your rating be for Drive My Car?
5 tacos, extra guac. This was my favorite movie of the year. Best movie I've seen in a long time, just for me personally.
Gotcha.
I cried a lot when I first saw this.
Oh no, yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And Kristen, you shared with me that you have seen it twice since. So I admire your you've mentioned you've seen it a couple of times since. Am I right?
I've seen it 3 times now.
Yeah. She does not fear the runtime. I love it.
I have a whole thing of notes.
Nice.
Wow, nice.
Absolutely. All right, Paul, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going 5 tacos. It's definitely in my top 3 for the year. It's like Wes Anderson had a movie come out this year, so that's always going to be my number 1 no matter what happens. So,
I love that movie.
But yeah, no, Drive My Car it's phenomenal. And I really hope people take the time to, and the effort, honestly, at this point, the effort, or they don't, when it starts hitting streamers in a couple months, they don't forget about it. Like, Drive My Car, please check it out.
Absolutely. Well, I am going to land in that same area of 5 tacos plus guac, and it gets the guac because of the courageous choice to let the time be the time and let the story be the story. It is a brilliant film, one that I probably would not have seen, Kristen, if it hadn't been for you, talking about it. And I'm glad I saw it, because it really makes you, it immerses you in the experience if you have the patience to allow yourself to be immersed into it. And so for the way a movie of that length just drew me in and held me with some great dialogue and some great story. And Paul, we've talked how many times in this show about me loving talkie films.
Yeah.
This was the ultimate. And so huge huge suggestion to folks to see Drive My Car. You've got to get out and watch it wherever you can.
Yeah.
Or keep an eye out for it.
Blair asks, where can we watch this? And unfortunately, it's not really widely available right now. We got some early access, hush, but yeah, I mean, we'll definitely. This is the type of movie that as soon as I see it out there available, I think we'll mention it here and make sure.
Oh yeah,
yeah, definitely check if your city has like an art house theater. Like there's like usually that one theater that's in your city that like will get those random kind of like more Oscar-y movies. Like this is starting to be released more as people are like, hey, what's this thing that people keep talking about? And so like I would say check your city. If you have an art house like theater, check their schedule, because there was 2 here in Chicago that were playing it. And then I honestly expect it will probably get more exposure. Like it will probably open more, like as we get closer to like Oscar nominations, and people are just like, where can I see this?
Yeah, that's
because
the hope.
It's been expanded like way more in the past month, just because of all those critics like groups, like people are wanting to know what the heck this is.
Yeah, where do I find this? Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we get info, we will make sure to share it on our social media, and of course talk about it on the show again, because we're always going to talk about, we do pre-shows for the Oscars for sure. So we'll be talking about this film more, I'm sure. I just wanted to get to San Antonio, man, because I want to see it again. That's for sure. All right. Well, Kristen, once again, thank you. I appreciate you, being here for this conversation, and I hope you'll continue with us tonight as we continue the show.
Yes, I am here.
Awesome. All right. Well, make sure you get out to see Drive My Car first chance you get. Keep an eye out for it, because it is one worth watching. All right. Well, we come to this week's segment that we call What the Hell Did I Just Watch? Paul, I turn it over to you. Wow us, as you always do.
So I am trying better to relate my What the Hell Did I Just Watch to some of the main themes of the movie or of the rest of the show. And I think the segue from Drive My Car to this movie that I'm about to do is perfect, because we're talking about cars being a metaphor for life. We're talking about movies that are being recognized by critics. Drive My Car was an entrant into Cannes, and it did not win, because the movie that won was a little thing called Titan. And
Titan, I love Titan.
Sorry, Titan. Yes, I apologize. I definitely had to break. But so Kristen, I guess you have seen this.
Yes, I actually saw it in theater here in Chicago. Because after it won the Palme d'Or, I was just like, oh, this is a movie, like, you can go on IMDb, the synopsis makes no sense.
I'm going to do that for you right now. Following a series of unexplained... Oh, wait, dang it. How did that happen? Yeah. Following a series of unexplained crimes, a father is reunited with the son who has been missing for 10 years. Titan, a metal highly resistant to heat and corrosion with high tensile strength alloys. What? And so here's the thing. The director, Julia's last name, I'm not going to even try to pronounce.
It's Ducournau.
Ducournau, thank you. Julia Ducournau directed one of my favorite What the Hell Did I Just Watches, Raw. And Sergio, you may remember this one. Mm-hmm. It's one where the young woman goes away to school, vet school, and develops a taste for human flesh.
Yes.
And I love that movie. And so here's the thing with Titan. It's 3 movies, and it doesn't know which one it wants to be, and never commits to any of them. So the first movie is a woman who is in a horrible car accident when she's super young, partially her fault, and ends up getting a metal plate in her head, and thus begins a lifelong love affair with cars, both figuratively and literally. The part of this movie is she also happens to become the world's worst serial killer. Because the whole thing about being a serial killer is that you plan things out, and you strategize, and you do things that make it so that you can be a serial killer for a super long time and never get caught. She's just kind of all right, let's do it. I'm ready to kill somebody today. And she has this really cool, her calling card is using a hair pick that she has. And it's just awesome. Okay, great. And then the third part of the third movie that is made here is a woman who is looking to hide away for some reason. And obviously it's because she's a serial killer, but that's immaterial. Decides she vaguely looks like an age projection of a little boy who's been missing for 10 years since he was 8, and so is now 18. And so they have those age projections this kid now looks like, and she decides, yeah, I could pass for that kid even though I'm 9 months pregnant, and goes and tries to pretend to be an 18-year-old boy.
And that isn't the craziest thing that happens in this movie.
No, and none of here. Okay, so these are 3 crazy things on their own. All right, you make one movie about one of those things, and it's gonna show up in the What the Hell Did I Just Watch? You make one movie with all 3, you're guaranteed a slot here in this segment. Okay, and honestly, I genuinely loved Raw. I did not love Titan. I didn't, and the reason is because the 3 stories don't work together. They flat don't work together. It literally feels like they are shoehorning in the 3 stories. Now, Kristen, please speak, advocate for Titan, and tell me why you liked it.
I had an experience that I have in just watching other people react to it is, what the hell did I just watch? It was, what the hell did I just watch?
Yep.
But I think I liked it.
Okay.
And I think for me, one is that this is a queer as hell movie.
Yeah.
Both from a gay standpoint, also from an identity standpoint, especially when you get to the woman who's impersonating, this long lost son.
Yeah.
And it was just a wild ride. There are definitely movies this year where it's not necessarily perfect. I didn't connect to this in the same way I connected to, for example, Drive My Car, or The Worst Person in the World, which is a Norwegian film that I personally really connected to, or Flee. And but for some reason this movie just has a strange pull for me because it looks gorgeous.
It does.
And it's just a wild ride. And I think knowing enough about it going into it, and then just sort of letting all of its strangeness sort of just wash over you.
Yeah.
just made it a great experience for me.
Yeah, this is a classic example of a movie that, for me, I loved the first hour. I absolutely loved the first hour. As soon as she got in with the guy, it just the thing about Raw is that there were clear, there was a clear message. There was, very obvious. The filmmaker had things she wanted to say, and it was very obvious what she wanted to say. When she gets to the fire, the father happens to be a fireman also, and when she gets to the fire station, I don't know what she's trying to say. Like, I have no idea. I up until that point, I understood. When she gets to the fire station and she's trying to pass off as a 9-month-old or 9-month pregnant 18-year-old boy, I don't get it. Like, it just did not work for me at all. Like, it was too much. It was literally like, I am trying to stretch this double into an inside the park home run, and it's like, no, go for a triple. You might make it, but there, okay, you got the third. Now stop. No, you're gonna keep going. No, please stop. You're gonna get out. And it did. And she got out. And it just and with a movie like this, when the ending is completely telegraphed and not even the least bit surprising or shocking, it's kind of like, well, again, why? Like, why are we here? Like, this is exactly what you've been trying to be shocking, or not trying. You've successfully been shocking this whole time, and you've been, just kind of taking convention on its ear and really doing a lot of interesting things and going for it. And then the ending is just like, okay, well, this is as soon as she showed up at the fire station, this is exactly where the ending was going to go. And it felt, honestly, the ending felt like a cop out. Like, it was just like, really, I don't know.
I feel like that's valid though. Like, I understood all of the points that you were making, and kind of like you, the first half I do love more than the second half. The second half was just a lot of, oh, okay.
Right.
I guess this is just what we're going to do.
That was literally what the second half of the movie was. I guess this is what we're going to do. And which I would be fine with if it was, I guess this is what we're going to do. And, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this. And that's really interesting, and it makes me think. But that's the problem is that I'm not asked to think in the second half. I think she doesn't want you to think in the second half of the movie because nobody else is thinking in the second half of the movie. It's just kind of like, it's weird. The second half of the movie is just as weird as the first half of the movie, but for completely different reasons. I think, like I said, there were 3 movies. I think if you could do any 2 of them without the third one, and it would work, but all 3 of them, there's just, I don't know. There's no payoff. None of them are seen through to fruition. It's just, the ending is just like, well, okay, that's of course where we were going to go. I am super happy that you liked it, Kristen, and I am super duper happy that you saw it. So thank you.
No, I mean, I appreciate you at least like going out of your way to watch a movie that you probably knew going in was going to be fucking weird.
Oh yeah, I knew 100%. I watched this with the intent of it being on, part of what the hell did I just watch? That's why I watched it basically. And then, I had been trying to slot it in. And then when I heard that you wanted to come on and do Drive My Car, I was like, well, yeah, obviously that's good. That's perfect. I'll hold it until then. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, our friend Blair asks, is it worth getting code for? Well, Blair, I'm happy to tell you, you don't have to because it is available on Amazon Prime. And I have already added it to my watch list just on the sheer power of both of you talking about it. It's available for rent. and purchase. So that is literally on my list for things to do this long holiday weekend I get. So
yeah,
thank y'all. I'm really, really excited about seeing this very strange film. So
this is definitely worth it. Yeah.
I mean, from a visual standpoint, like
Beautiful.
Like the car show scene. I'm sure you can agree with me. The car show, like that long, there's a long, like 3-minute take in a car show that is just, it's one of the best shots I've seen in a very, very long time.
I wanted more of that. I wanted more of the scene in the apartment with the flatmates. I wanted more of, honestly, the fucked up scenes inside cars. Like I wanted more. Like she ends up in a fire station and there's no scene between her and a fire truck. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like she's obsessed with cars and she doesn't have a scene where she boards a fire truck? Really?
Didn't she?
No.
Well, my DVD is coming next week, so I'll rewatch it.
I mean, she goes on a ride along, but it's, she doesn't connect with the fire truck where she should connect with the fire truck. Like there should be a scene with her having an emotional connection with the fire truck, but they drop it. They just totally drop it, and it's just like.
I do love how that's a real comment you're making about this story.
Yeah.
That you could not make about any other story.
That's come out. Like that, I was annoyed that she didn't have an emotional moment with a fire truck. Is
that would have definitely made it much more awesome,
right? So,
man, Paul, if I ever do a segment called "What the hell did I just watch?" I'm just going to copy that last few moments of you talking and be like, "What the hell did I just?" So.
By the way, that this won Palme d'Or over Drive My Car is inexplicable to me. I don't understand at all. Like, I don't get that.
Drive My Car won the screenplay award,
sure,
which makes sense.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's weird.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Yeah. Well, I cannot tell you both how happy it makes me to hear two of my favorite folks, movie-loving folks, talk about something like this.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I have no clue, but now I want to know. And so I appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you, Paul, for always bringing us interesting stuff week to week. Those of you out there know that if you join us or if you stop by and watch the show, you're always going to get some fantastic ideas for things to watch that are strange or maybe to avoid. Who knows? So make sure you check out What the Hell Did I Just Watch every single week with Paul. All right. Well, it has been a fantastic show. Kristen, I can't thank you enough for joining us and for partaking in so much of our show this week. It's been a lot of fun having you on.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for letting me bring this movie to y'all. Like, I've been wanting to talk about this movie for so long. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And I hope that I'll continue to get messages from you about other films and such, because it's always worth talking about. So
I can give you a list.
I'm going to ask right now, because Worst Person in the World doesn't really get a full release until March. I definitely would love to have you come in and talk Worst Person in the World.
I mean, I have a copy. And that was my number 4 movie this year. So I will gladly watch that again and talk with y'all with it, because it is delightful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have you talk to our executive producers, which is us off air. So definitely. All right. Well, Paul, as always, it's fun talking movies with you, and I look forward to doing so again next week. Anything that you want to preview for next week, Paul, that we're looking forward to doing?
Honestly, no. I mean, we actually have to have a genuine conversation, because they're
we need to figure that out
this week.
Yeah.
Well, I'm free next week.
I'm glad to hear that. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you all to all of you who are out there watching us. We appreciate that. We thank you whether you're watching us live or if you catch the show later. We appreciate that you stop by and listen to us drone on and on excitedly about movies we love. So please keep doing so. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Just look us up by the name of the show, and also on YouTube. One last reminder, don't forget, click that subscribe button and also click the notification bell so you know when these episodes post. But more than all of that, we remind you, as we always do, you are awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it. We'll see you next time.